Hey, hi, hello. I'm recording and editing everything on my phone, so it's all going to be a little wonky and there's going to be no background music, just my voice. Sorry about that. You would have think of the last video, I would have learned my lesson by now, but here we are. Anyway, it's a time of year where if you go outside where I live, you melt into nothing and die. Um, Except if you decide to go outside between the hours of 4 and 7 a.m. So I really wanted to try painting in my backyard because I thought it would be a nice change of scenery for me. Also, here you're going to see my dog interrupting me. I would apologize for that, but she's a dog. People like dogs. Anyway, I'm using my gouache paint because I really like the medium and I want to learn it better, but I'm really bad at it. I'm using yellow for the background. These pieces of paper. I had a clip of me tracing over my sketch that I had on the paper with onto these little pieces of torn paper, but my head was in the way the entire time because this setup was kind of precarious. I thought maybe adding the little pieces of paper and like making them look like they were taped in would be fun. I don't know if I like it in hindsight. I decided to paint a bunch of animals that are native to the area that I live in. I found a lot of them. The quail and the rabbit and the antelope squirrel, I learned it is called. I see almost every day in my own yard. But the coyote and the desert bighorn sheep I do not see every day because they live less in civilization. Oh, I also decided I only wanted one piece of tape on the coyote. I also painted prickly pear cactus because those are everywhere in my yard, and actually where I'm recording there is one like directly across from me. Well, not directly across from me, but I can see it across from me. They were actually a little bit harder to paint than I expected because I saw the color on the little swatch sheet that came with my paint, and I was like, oh, that's the right color for the middle of the cactus that I see in front of me, and then I put the paint down and it was way more yellow than I expected it to be. I was also outside from like 5 to 7:50 in the morning, so that was interesting. I usually don't get up that early, but I cannot. I have been getting up that early in the past couple days because I cannot get a sleep schedule to save my life. I also decided to put one of the cactuses behind the quail because the quail in my yard like to hide in the prickly pear cactus in the front yard when cars and stuff come by. If you are curious about the very specifics of all of the animals, I have a coyote, a cottontail rabbit, white-tailed antelope squirrel, Gambel's quail, and a desert bighorn sheep. Desert bighorn sheep are smaller than the bighorn sheep that most people think of when they think of bighorn sheep, which are a other thing. I can't remember what they're called now. What their specific thing is. Mountain bighorn sheep? I don't know. You'd think I would know this by now. I spent an hour on my state's Department of Wildlife page for this video. I really don't like the way the bighorn sheep turned out. I thought it turned out a little wonky. I couldn't get the... I felt like I couldn't get the exact colors correct or make it saturated enough. Oh, its eyes are also really, really weird. And they don't look correct at all. I decided to add little ridges on their horn for the bighorn sheep just to see if that helped at all. I think it helped slightly, but its eyes are just so wrong that there's no saving it. This rabbit was also really hard. I don't know why trying to get the shape of the rabbit was so difficult for me when I was sketching, and then when I painted it over, it just got significantly worse. I also couldn't look at any of the reference images I had because they were all on my phone, and I was using my phone to record. Also, at this point, it got so hot outside that I needed to get a hat, so that's gonna cut in and block the screen at a couple points. Oh, I also tried to color in the rabbit's eyes way too early before the paint dried, and so it leaked onto the rest of its face, and it was very creepy. I went and painted in all the eyes and noses of some of the creatures that I still had yet to paint. Here I had to move inside because it had gotten really close to 8 a.m., which is when it starts getting way too hot to be outside safely. And my phone was giving me an overheating warning, literally burned my finger when I stopped the recording, and the drink I had, which was in a can, the can was starting to get really hot, and it's like, okay, I can't be outside much longer. This quail gave me a lot of trouble, and I had to pause and unpause the recording a lot to refer back to the reference image, because although I see them literally every single day, I cannot remember what they look like for the life of me. I messed up its face a couple times and had to paint back over it, and that annoyed me greatly. Oh, a story I'd like to tell is that this morning I did see a baby quail do something that was very much a baby thing to do. It was with its... Okay, I don't know what my camera just did there. That was bizarre. Sorry about that. I just forgot what I was telling you. Okay, anyway, antelope squirrel. I've always thought these were chipmunks. My family's always thought they were chipmunks, so we've been calling them that. And then when I was doing some trying to find reference images for this video, I learned that that is in fact not what they are called. I also messed him up pretty bad. Also, him and the coyote were like the exact same color palette, which I did not take into account when I was putting all the creatures on this page. I'm also not sure if I'm a fan of how I have them all just kind of floating in space, but, you know, I came up with this video idea like an hour before I filmed it. Coyotes are also surprisingly detailed. I feel like I don't take into account the how detailed the color patterns of all the animals in my area are when I see them. Coyotes, I have seen a couple, but they do tend to stay more in the desert rather than coming closer to civilization. Um, I look at a coyote and I'm just like, oh, it's like kind of a gray and brown color, and then I'm looking at the reference image and I'm like, oh, they have white patches in them and some like black stripes, and the gray and the brown have a weird way of blending into each other, and it's interesting to look at the detail that they have on them. I really messed up the coyote's neck fur. The more I looked at the reference and the more I tried to emulate the reference image onto the piece of paper, the worse it got. I decided to put where the animals overlap onto the torn pieces of paper. I decided to put a blue outline on them just so they would have some contrast to the paper, piece of paper. Then also just because that antelope, squirrel, and coyote are the exact same colors, and it was so hard to look at it and not make it look, in my head, not register as the coyote's feet turned into a squirrel. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you for witnessing, and I hope you have a wonderful day, night, or whatever time it is where you are. Bye-bye.